College was the best experience of my life. I mean, college was the worst experience of my life on Film Threat Reviews. I'm Alan Ning. I'm with Zorianna Kit, and today we review S-House. Be sure to comment, like, and subscribe to the Film Threat YouTube channel. Let us know what you thought about it. Lonely college freshman Alex is about to start his first year of college with a huge thud. Can this loser loner pull it together after an evening with his RA, Maggie? It's written, directed, and stars Cooper Raiff. Also stars Dylan Gelula, Amy Landecker, and Logan Miller. This is an interesting movie. This one actually won the Grand Jury Prize at South by Southwest this year. I'm curious to know what you thought about the movie.
Well, I think it's the perfect movie to be screening at South by Southwest. It's really totally in that sort of festival vein. I thought it heralded the potential arrival of a new filmmaker. I was very impressed that the person who stars in this film also wrote it and directed it, which leads me to believe that if you write what you know, that perhaps Cooper, it might even be that guy a little bit. Or
are you making assumptions about the filmmaker?
I am, because he played it so well, so smoothly, he was very vulnerable. So the storyline is that this nerd guy, he's not adjusting well to college. He misses his family, his mom and his sister. He's got a stuffed animal as his best friend. His roommate's a total stoner, and he can't seem to get a date. And then he meets someone, and you think that it's going to go down this typical, they fall in love over the course of one night. Like, okay, boring, seen this before. And that's sort of where I thought it was going, because it really went on for a really long time. So I was kind of getting a little bit bored, because I was like, okay, they're just meandering through this evening, having like little adventure after adventure, but like, so what's the verdict on their relationship? But then there's this about face that happens where that doesn't happen at all.
Yeah. This is one of those movies that it took me a little while to get on board. Because making a movie about a loser loner is very difficult, or it's hard to pull off, because they can come off as a little too pathetic, or they're too comedic. Or maybe the experience is just a little too painful. I mean, I don't think my college experience was as bad as Alex's in the movie, but I definitely felt the way he felt. This is, it gets really deep and emotional for this guy, who's basically socially awkward and is just having a hard time connecting with people. And then when he finally does with Maggie, it's that, the first time you kiss someone and your brain just goes in a million directions about how great your life is going to be from that point on, until it all crashes down the next morning.
Well, it sort of has that nuance and sensitivity of, like, he's watched a lot of Richard Linklater movies, or maybe he's sort of pulling a little bit from that. But there's also a sweetness that we have seen in certain Judd Apatow films in the early years, not the whole raunchy stuff, but just the underlying sweetness, which this film has. And there's even that awkward moment that like pulls from Swingers, when he can't stop texting this girl. He just cannot. And it's the equivalent of Jon Favreau in Swingers leaving incessant voicemails on this girl's answering machine. So there's a lot of elements from some of the good movies in that genre that have worked, and he pulls from that and puts it in here. So I do think this is definitely a talent that we should be on the lookout for. I believe he's only 22, 23 years old. So he's young, and that's already a pretty much an accomplishment for him to not only be a triple threat, but on something that's been so well received. And
yeah,
also,
just as a plug, we do Chris interviews Cooper on another episode of the Film Threat podcast. Let me just jump in by saying what I liked about this movie is, yes, we've seen that typical boy meets girl story, but this one is so unique. I mean, it just didn't feel like a movie I had seen before, especially in story and from the perspective of that kind of awkward loner. I can't think of a movie that even comes close to that. And I do like the fact that it is not one of these raunchy college tales either.
Despite the title, because the title is very deceiving. It does make you think, that it's going to have this American Pie raunchiness to it, party all the time. And, there are so many college films that we have seen over the years that do center around people's first years, and it is comedic, and everyone seems to be having a good time, getting drunk, getting laid, all that sort of stuff. And this really offers a viewpoint that probably is very common, but never talked about, and certainly never depicted on screen.
Well, to me, this is that era, or that time in your life, that transition from basically being an adolescent to being an adult. And that's essentially what college is, and that's what's captured here. Is here's a guy who just graduated from high school and now has to become an adult, and there's no one around to guide him, to help him through, and a lot of forces pulling him in the wrong directions and getting there. And that's that's a story that we're not telling as much, but I have seen films like that, and so I think we're going to be seeing films like this coming down the pike.
Yeah, it's nice to see the vulnerability. Mind you, it's been a long time since I've been in college, and certainly I'm not, I didn't have to deal with cell phones and social media and all that sort of stuff. So it's obviously a different bird today. So on that level, I can't say that I related to everything in this film, but I think certainly everyone at some point felt the way our lead did, and also the way that his co-star felt. I mean, this girl is, she's a little bit more unusual of a female lead that we've seen in movies, because normally we tend to see the girl who is longing for something deep and meaningful, and it's the guy who is the whole one and done thing. But here it's almost like it's a little gender reversed here. This girl would much rather jump in the sack with the next guy she sees than actually deal with her own emotions. And by hanging out with him, she's sort of forced to look at some of the things that she has inside her, and she continuously pulls up these walls over and over and over. I mean, she's a tough nut to crack.
And it falls in line with that pattern of someone who's just out of their teens and heading into adulthood, and she has her issues to deal with to move her on to the next level. And we even see that with his roommate, that he even has to make that jump to that next level, because you just can't languish your life away as a immature adult. And that's that nuance I love about this movie and this story.
I think it's a very difficult thing to achieve. It's such a fine line, and you never quite know when you're shooting something like that if you truly have it. It probably comes together more in the editing process. But it's nuance is tough. Nuance is tough to do on film. And there is something, although this movie was not 100% for me, and I was a little bit bored at the beginning. Like you said, it took you a while to kind of get on board with it. I agree with you. It was like that for me. Maybe that's just an age thing. But I do have to acknowledge this is a special little movie, and it does deserve its rightful praise.
Yes. Okay. So you like the movie, you like the performances, not necessarily your cup of tea. So I'm going to say you gave it an 8.
7.5.
7.5. Okay.
Yeah. You probably gave it an 8.
I actually give it an 8.5. I really liked the movie. I always give bonus points to new ideas and unique perspectives.
Nice.
And to a really good story. And that's what this is. So it definitely got an 8.5 for me. All right. So, be sure to visit filmthreat.com for more news and reviews about independent films, And with that, let's get out of here.